Welcome to the Three Dot Podcast. This is going to be another Nick Ryder solo episode. Phil is unavailable for the second straight week. Last week we thought we were going to do it, didn't end up working out, and ended up too busy. Just didn't work. And I didn't want to do two this week. This week, Phil texted me some times that he was available. I get back to him. I said, "All right, cool. Let me know. Sounds good." And then he texts me about 10 minutes after that and goes, actually, Lauren said I got to work around the house, so can't do it. So, whatever to that. That's fine. I mean, that's out of his hands. And he was running a 5K that apparently takes 24 hours. I'm not exactly sure what happened there. Last week, I text him, I believe, Wednesday and go, "Are you good for Saturday morning?" He says, "I'll let you know." No problem. Don't hear back from him. I text him back on Friday, and I said, "Are we good for the morning?" And he responds by saying, "I just found out I'm golfing." So this is a big theme with the podcast of golf taking over for the show. That's how we lost James. R.I.P. to James. He was killed in a golf league. And now we have Phil, who just found out. It's amazing that these people just find out right when I text him about showing up for the show. And then, so I did text Phil. I go, "So you literally just found out as I asked you?" He goes, "Yeah, the guy just texted me." Who am I to call the man a liar? You know, he's been consistent somewhat the last couple times. And was talking to one of our dots. Shout out to Dave, who's done some voice work for us. He was saying, "I really liked you and James on the podcast, like good chemistry," and he was entertaining. And he goes, "You and Phil I like too. It's different, but it's enjoyable," which is good. That's good. And a few people have said that regardless of who's in here, the show's been good. Some people have liked the solo ones, even though one was mainly just an Ohio State podcast. But even though some of them aren't big Ohio State fans, they said that they enjoyed that as well. So I wanted to make sure we did at least a quick solo one this week, just to get something out there and quell these rumors that the show's dying based off one missed week, which I understand that's how it starts, but that's not what's happening. We're going to keep doing this, or at least I'm going to keep doing it, regardless of whether I have help or not, or more spontaneous golf leagues pop up out of nowhere and rob me of my quote-unquote talent. So to recap from the last 2 weeks, I'm going to save some of these stories for when Phil's back in studio. But this past week I did, the reason I'm doing Sundays, I did 14-hour days, Wednesday and Thursday at work. Friday I had contractors here, then my uncle and my brother were in town for the first time in a long time. It was the first time I'd seen my brother in probably 8 months, 9 months. Went over to my grandma's with Haley for a while. Then Saturday went back over there, did some yard work with them to help my grandma out, and then painted an entire garage and mowed our own grass with my neighbor. It was a busy few days, but like I said, I want to get something out this week to quash these freaking rumors. We're not dying here. It's a 3 Dot Podcast, which also opens, if you're not a golfer, feel free to reach out and you can be on the show, because these goddamn golf leagues are just robbing everything from me. But so I do, or I have done like Postmates and Uber Eats deliveries before, and I stopped doing that for a while, and I went to reactivate my account, and it reminded me, when I lived out in White House, like we didn't, Murph and I used to get Ubers a lot out to Matt Anthony, shout out to them, and back, because other times we would drive, which was irresponsible, I will say that. But I remember, like, we had never taken an Uber before, like, and we used to debate who would sit in the front seat, and one of us would sit in the front, like, morons. Like, when I drove for Uber a few times with people, I was like, if someone got in the front seat, I would be so freaked out. And they would probably think they were going to get robbed. You'd have one of us in the front seat, one of us in behind them, like as if we're going to grab them and like have them drive us somewhere and leave them. This is like, I don't know what we were thinking, that it wasn't like a taxi. I don't know. It's White House, Ohio. You don't have taxis and shit out there. Well, we thought someone had to sit in the front seat, which was ridiculous. Um, but we had some funny Uber drivers. We had one who was a woman who stood about 6'8". I'm serious. She was 6'8", probably 30 something, and she told us she was a linebacker and she played football with in high school. She played football, like actual high school football, and she was a linebacker. I don't know where this woman came from and why she's not like in the WNBA right now. But I just, when I was thinking about the Uber and jotting some stuff down, I remember that story specifically. Um, Very bizarre. I don't know where she came from, where she is now. Maybe she's playing in the XFL somewhere under an assumed name. Uh, but there's also one time when we were out in BG, Murph and I, and it started with us trying to start a bar fight a few times because Murph was obsessed with getting drunk and then just like walking by and shouldering people really hard. And then I would come up and do the same thing. Really just stupid. We were young, dumb. But we got an Uber under his dad's account from BG, and we both had dip in and no spitter because we didn't think that far ahead. And Murph passes out, so he's like asleep. I'm trying to wake him up. He wakes up and punches me. So we're like about to fight in this guy's van, and he's like clearly pissed off. He drops us off. The next day, we didn't remember this, but the next day he had sent pictures to the account, which was his dad's account, of just dip spit all over both of his seats in the back, which apparently we had just been spitting onto the seats of this man's car with no regard for it. And his dad, well, first of all, charged us the fee for cleaning, and one of them had to get a new seat. And that was one of the worst moments ever of his dad. The next day, we're hungover, waking up to him being like, What the fuck did you guys do last night? This Uber driver just sent me a bunch of pictures. His cars are covered in spit, and he said you guys like passed out. You guys were whatever. I have a bad rating. I don't know, something with ratings. Hilarious. Now, at the time, it was terrifying because Murph's dad was an awesome dude. Or is an awesome dude. He's not dead, I don't think. That'd be a sad way to find out. But he was so pissed off, rightfully so. And then, whenever time I saw him in a different manner when we were drunk, we were out in Cleveland, and this isn't an Uber story, but I just thought of this. I was there with Haley and her sister and James and Grace, and we were all going around Cleveland bar hopping, and then turned out Murph was in Cleveland with his brother and his dad. So Haley and I went to meet up with him. He ended up joining our group, but when we get there, there's a bartender. Well, first of all, I ordered shots for his brother, and his dad, and two of them, what did I used to drink? Green tea shots. And his dad was fucked up. His brother was fucked up. Murph was fucked up. I was fucked up. So then there's this bartender who, like, is clearly hammered, and he's, like, run up and down the bar, and he's getting yelled at the other end of the bar. He comes up to me, and I, like, gave him a good tip. I had just gotten there. I didn't know any of the situation, so I gave him a good tip. And he just, like, puts his arms out and hugs me. And I'm just like, whatever. We're both drunk. We're hugging. Yeah, good to see you, man. And then at the other end of the bar, I hear him yelling, "Oh, that must be his friend." And again, whatever, blah, 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 blah. Turned out this bartender, before I got there, had, like, harassed this dude's wife and, like, poured a drink on this other dude and was just a mess. So then they're getting ready to close the bar because it's getting so, like, unruly. They had a big group, and this one guy was, like, shoving the bartender, and then finally the guy's like, "All right, everyone out of here." As we're leaving, someone pulls the fire alarm because they were so pissed off at the bartender about their way to get back at him. So people are, like, scrambling out of there, and all of a sudden we run into this group, and they go, "That's his friend," meaning me, because I had hugged the bartender. And I'm like, I'm not even from here. I don't even, but I, like, how do you explain yourself? I'm just like, I don't even know what's going on. So then they try to shove me. They grab the bartender who's like in the middle of a scrum, and they get him on the ground. So now I'm not the dude's friend, but I don't want to see him get stomped out either. So I'm like trying to pull someone off. Someone grabs Murph by the neck, and Murph's like trying to shove them. The guy has him in a headlock. So then I like shove the dude as hard as I can, like into a table. Another guy grabs Murph. Another guy grabs me. We're like in a full, like, it was more like a baseball fight. No one's throwing punches, but just a bunch of shoving. And we get out of there. And Murph's brother's like, what the fuck? And Murph's dad is like, Alex, you were in that. Yeah. Like all pumped up and fired up. It was hilarious. Murph's dad is great. Very entertaining guy. He was so fired up that Murph and I were in a scrum. And later that night, Murph's brother, we find him again because we ended up with our group, and then we break off. And then Murph calls me. He's like, we need you to come to the casino. And at this point, it's like probably 3, 4 in the morning. And we were all sitting in the lobby at the casino. Murph and his brother tried to go in. They call me. I go up there, and there's this guy, one guy who's just like, I can't let you guys in. I go, what's going on? He goes, well, they both, one of them couldn't find their ID, and the other one literally fell on his way up here. So I'm trying to like talk to the guy, trying to be like, no, I've been with him all night. They're fine. He's like, that's fine, but I can't let you in. And he's like, all of your guys' eyes are red as hell, which was fatigue, not marijuana. Just want to clear that up. Fatigue, and it was marijuana. And then the guy was like, I can't let you guys in. And then Murphy's brother would always sit down at the like little podium thing. And they're like, well, we're just gonna wait here. And I left him there, and I don't know what happened the rest of that night until the next day. Murph's like, I think we got in. And I'm like, there's no shot. And he's like, you're right. We ended up going back to our dad's room, and he was passed out, and they didn't have their key card, and they couldn't get in. Just a whole mess. But it was just, anything involving Murph's dad cracks me up, and Murph's brother is also a good dude. He was really funny the whole night. Drinking stories, good stuff. Let's see here. I have on notes here because I wasn't even gonna tell that story. I was just gonna do a few minutes to get something on YouTube. But should I tell the dead neighbor story? That might be a better one for Phil. Short version: we live in a condo. There's 4 units here, and the lady next to us died. We'll save that for next week. Little teaser. Ohio State predictions have been dead on. I've talked about it before. And recruiting looks like we have another couple guys committed this week, so that'll be big for us. Or at least in the next couple weeks. Things are looking good for a tackle, number 1 tackle potentially. And then there's all of our players are still big on social media recruiting, which you love to see. And Michigan recruiting, they hired, I believe is the great-grandson maybe, of Bo Schembechler as their Twitter guy for Michigan recruiting, and he resigned 4 days after taking a job. I guess he had some weird likes and some weird things on the page. Maybe he was drinking, maybe he was, just bad state of mind. I don't know, but he's was hired and fired within 4 days. So things continue moving right along there. They had their assistant who was suspended or fired for tampering, something with computers. Michigan, I see a lot of these rankings where Ohio State's like 3 or 4, Michigan's 2, with Georgia being 1, or Alabama being 1. And I gotta tell you, I don't see. I understand the Michigan hype, but I don't think it's gonna sustain like it has the last 2 years. And these Michigan fans are ridiculous, where it's like, we own you. You won the last 2 years. Hats off. I'm not going to say anything about it. 2 straight years you won. The last decade before that just gets ignored. Like, Ohio State hasn't gone anywhere. Like, you guys have built to beat us. We're built to beat SEC teams. We're going to find a way to beat you guys, too. Like, it's going to happen. And I think this year is going to be much improved even from last year on the defensive end, which can balance us out. Some gambling. Miami Heat have been making me a ton of money because they're still not picked. They still weren't picked to win the series against the Celtics after Game 1. And I believe they still weren't favored after Game 2 on some sites. But the spread the other night was like plus. I think when I waited to bet it, I got at plus 9.5 and ended up winning the game. Should have taken a money line, but I wasn't that confident. But Jimmy Butler, I don't think the Heat are capable of winning the entire thing. I don't think they can win the championship against either the Lakers or the Nuggets, which it's going to be the Nuggets most likely, especially after they're up 3-0 now. So Nuggets are going to win the West, and I think they beat either the Celtics or the Heat. But I think the Heat are definitely going to beat the Celtics. I don't see the Celtics winning 4 straight or even, trading the next 2 games, and then coming back. The Celtics team is bizarre in the sense that, like, Jaylen Brown and Tatum kind of swap, and neither one seems comfortable when the other one's going off, and then when they get the shot, they have to be on. I don't think their coach is on the same level as Spoelstra at all. Or even, Darvin Ham, who's in his first year with the Lakers. Like, I don't believe in Missoula, or Bill Simmons was calling him second row Joe because he was an assistant under Ime Udoka, but he wasn't even on the bench. He was like in the row behind, and now he's the head coach. And I just don't think he's ready for that spot. I don't think he'll be a bad coach, but right now I don't think he just has the knowledge or experience to lead this team to a championship. And on paper, I still think the Celtics are one of the most talented teams. It's just the way they play together isn't quite, what it should be. And on the other end, I think the Heat come out of that and they'll lose to the Nuggets. The Nuggets, I think, are winning it all. I should have picked them in the beginning when we did predictions, but I love picking Jimmy Butler in the Heat. But Jokic is still unreal. Jamal Murray is playing better and better, which is crazy in the playoffs. And their home court advantage is ridiculous, so the altitude and everything. Davis and LeBron, who are, LeBron's old. He's flaky anyway, and Davis is constantly either injured or fatigued or doesn't show up. The Nuggets just, every night, you're getting the same game. You know what you're getting, and they're going to just grind it out, and they're going to win however they have to. And they have just enough from their role players with Porter Jr. and Gordon, who Gordon hasn't been doing a lot, but he's still defensively important to them. And like their team's built very well to make a championship run, which is what they're doing right now. They never seem lost. And I think the Nuggets end up beating the Lakers. Obviously, they're up 3-0, so that's going to happen. I think the Heat pull out the series against the Celtics. And I think that the Nuggets end up being beaten the Heat, which I think the Heat would be an easier battle for them, but we'll see how that plays out. I think the Celtics, just talent-wise, could make things hard on the Nuggets, but I think even then, they have enough defensive stoppers, along with no one. They have no one to stop Jokic. I don't think Horford would be able to do anything against him. So I've got the Nuggets there. The Lakers, it'll be interesting to see what LeBron does after this year. And then I also think it'll be interesting to see what the Spurs look like. For those who don't know, they won the lottery. They have the number 1 pick. They're going to take Wembayama from France, who's supposedly measuring at 7'5", and shoots threes. They're talking about him playing either a 2 or a 3 in the league at 7'5", which I don't see how that's realistic. I mean, he'll probably be a 4 or 5, but he's very small. He's very like the guy from Gonzaga, Chet Holmgren, maybe. But he's very much like him, where he's got a very slim build, where I don't know if he'll be able to battle with some of the bigger guys right away. But there's not a better team to go to than the Spurs, because you got arguably the best coach with Greg Popovich, who already said Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker are going to be in the organization mentoring the kid right when he gets there. Which is awesome, because the Spurs have that or those three guys who are pivotal to the entire history of the franchise still care about it, and they are willing to come back and do that. So, be interesting to see if they make a push. The free agency market isn't great right off the bat for them to try to make some plays for some guys. Maybe some trades. Maybe Austin Reeves from the Lakers, if he leaves to try to get more money, would be just another piece. But outside of that, like Draymond's supposed to be a free agent, but the Warriors have come out and said they want to keep him. Like if the Knicks try to move off of one of the three of Randall, Barrett, and Brunson, they'll probably keep Brunson, but I don't know if I'd want to bring Randall into that situation. Same with Barrett. There's really not a lot of talent, so it'll be interesting to see what the Spurs try to do in terms of building around this new greatest prospect of all time, which Woj, the reporter, said he might be the greatest prospect in the history of team sports, which is wild. And arguably the greatest prospect in sports, which I don't know why we do this where we hype up these kids so much. Well, like Zion was hyped as, the next generational talent, and he's been injured. These big guys get injured. There's a chance that this guy's Greg Oden, where he gets hurt right off the bat, and we never get to see what he could really be, especially with his size, his height. Could have some injuries, and especially how frail he looks. Then you also have the other end of it where it's like LeBron was the most hyped guy ever coming out of high school. If you want to go outside team sports, Tiger Woods at like 4 years old was hitting putts on a talk show and delivered on that promise. I don't know. I don't like that we're hyping this kid up so much so that even if he's above average, it's considered a failure. Like, can we give him 1 year? Teams are already saying by his third year he could be the best player in the league, and I don't see that happening at all. Maybe, and he's in the perfect organization to try to do it and try to bring him on slowly and give him what he needs, but I just don't like that kind of hype being pushed around a kid who is coming straight from, Europe and being told he's going to be the face of the league right off the bat. I have some other work stories. I have some Mother's Day recap. I have other things we're going to do, but we're probably going to do 2 this week. We're probably, technically, this is Sunday, and we're probably going to do Friday or Saturday. Most likely Saturday, with either Phil or James or anyone who doesn't golf. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to try to get some more shorts up this week as well. So, like I said, I just wanted to get a quick thing to get on YouTube, and thank you, Barney. Our cat has made an appearance on the podcast again. Do that in the mic next time, please. Better co-host than the last 2 I've had. But that'll do it for this week on the 3 Dot Podcast. Thank you for the listen. Subscribe. Once we get to 50, early subscribers are going to get some free merch like we talked about. Follow us on Twitter at 3 Dot Podcast. Same with Instagram. And like I said, reach out if you want a chance to be on the show, because golf is destroying us from the inside. They don't want us to win. And that'll do it. Avoid seafood. See you later.